Yesterday, I walked outside for quite a long time. I woke up around 11 a.m. on this device, and since I hadn't been moving much, my body felt stiff and sluggish, so I decided to go out and explore a bit more. As usual, I stepped outside into the hustle and bustle. It still feels strange to see so many people walking around. I'm not used to it. Particularly odd was the fact that men live alongside women here. In the future, we only saw men at parties. Oh, speaking of parties, I wonder if they are different from the ones here. In our time, we had parties about twice a month where men and women would meet, mainly for what you would call sex here. From what I understand, past parties involving drinking, eating, dancing, and so on, right? We don't do at our parties. People would just gather for sex, and it would end a few hours later when a bell rang. While in the act, people might exchange a few words about their jobs or other such things, but since everyone usually worked in some kind of factory job like I did, or spent their leisure time listening to music, although as I mentioned before, it might be slightly different from the music here. There wasn't much to talk about, and if we had met the person a few times before, it was common to just greet each other and proceed with the main event. I heard that if someone conceived, they would receive a supplement or just some kind of medication as an incentive, which was said to be quite beneficial. So people made an effort to couple with several partners. Needless to say, the experience itself was also pleasurable. Anyway, since we didn't see the opposite sex in daily life, walking through the city feels rather odd. Everyone's clothes are different, and the shops, we didn't have stores where you'd go and buy goods displayed on shelves, so just seeing rows of shops is overwhelming. Not just the fact that I see men walking around. Everything here is pushing into my senses. If I start listing everything, there will be no end to it. Everything is so different. Everything feels strange. But if I find it interesting, maybe this day won't be so unpleasant. That's what I suddenly thought this morning. So I decided to view it all as interesting and repeat it to myself that it's interesting as I walked along. Like, I've heard of something called a driver's license, but does that mean all those cars are actually operated by ordinary people? Isn't it dangerous? Oh, so accidents happen? Why do they keep using something so dangerous? Could it be that people in the past were still immature? No, this is interesting too. By adding interesting to my thoughts, I softened the strangeness of comparing reality here with the information in my mind and the life of the future. Doing this made going out into the city to observe things more enjoyable. Eventually, I felt hungry, so I decided to try something new and went into the nearby restaurant. Since I wasn't sure what to order, I chose something called a tonkatsu set meal. A large portion of food came, which surprised me. I tried the greens. It was my first time eating vegetables. The flavor was slightly bitter and not particularly tasty, but milder than what many of the foods here are, so easier to eat. Next, I tried the katsu. It was apparently meat fried in oil. I'd never seen a meat chunk that big, nor had I encountered fried food like this, so it was a new texture. Although we do eat meat in the future, it's usually in the form of brown square nutrient blocks. The taste is similar but less firm and slightly sweet. It's hard to explain, but it wasn't bad. Although the meat here was a bit tougher and lighter in flavor than what I'm used to, it was easier to eat compared to extremely sweet dishes. I saw people using a sauce on the table. That's what it's called, right? When I added it, the flavor became much stronger and quite salty. I managed to eat that salty piece and then tried adding just a little drop of sauce on the next bite, which was quite nice. For the first time since I arrived, I found something I genuinely wanted more of. However, after a few pieces, I started losing my appetite. I wonder if it's because of the large portion. I put a little sauce on the greens as well, which made them easier to eat, and not bad. This sensation of moisture as you chew is something I'm still not quite used to, though. And the rice. It had a mild sweetness and light flavor, which made it quite easy to eat. As for the soup, miso soup I think it's called, it was very salty. It was too salty to drink continuously, so I used the rice to counteract it. The rice seemed to got stronger taste after the soup, but it wasn't bad. Alternating the salty soup with the rice, I managed to finish it. The soup was very salty, but overall, this meal was easier to eat than most dishes here I ate, so I'm glad I gave it a try. Perhaps because it was a large portion, by the end it became quite a challenge to finish it all, though. And even now, I feel a bit of it lingering in my stomach. I'll get something else later if I get hungry today, but for now, water seems sufficient. So I returned home with a heavy stomach and a tired body and fell asleep without writing my journal. Today, my usual headache is a bit stronger, so I've been staying in my room.